do this. Thank you, thank you. Now everyone has woken up and my mic has fallen down. My name is Gario Kamau. Our title is Why Conversations, Not Likes, Create Conversions. And I have a story about that, about conversations. There's a time I was on Gong Road, next to that Uchumi supermarket. That share, it was, it's a mobile, or in Libya now, yeah? And there's this guy who was selling belts. And this guy came to me with the belt, and there's a tactic they do. I don't know. They slap it together, yeah? Pa, pa. Buddha ini leather. I'm not interested. Pana Buddha ini leather. Nikona belt. And the guy did something interesting. He said, unaona hii leather? Dogi ikikukimbisha, utoiyo belt, haikachana nawe ikule belt. And that's the meaning of leather. And that conversation made me to buy the belt, because that's the best story I've ever heard. Let's go to our panelists. Starting from you, introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Cynthia Otoro. My role at JumboJet is the Digital Marketing and Communications Manager, and I'm happy to be here today. Oh, sorry. Is it my mic?
No, it's your mic, not your voice. Yes.
Should be fine now?
Yeah.
Is it better? Okay. Cynthia Otoro is my name. My role at JumboJet is Digital Marketing and Communications Manager.
Hi everyone, my name is Vivian Thangata. I work at Safaricom PLC as the Corporate Communications Manager. Basically what I deal with is our social media assets and corporate communication for brand assets and sponsorships. And yeah, I'm excited to be here as well. Thanks.
Hi everyone. I'm Clara Gasheri Rinchuni. I work at NIG Radio as a digital strategist, and what that entails is developing products for the digital future.
Hi everyone, I'm Joy Wahome, Business Unit Head at Belva Digital, and what that entails is account management and business development as well. Happy to be here.
Good afternoon everyone. My name is Kamarichi. I'm the CEO at Medios. I deal with influencers on a day-to-day, and making worthwhile noise. So happy to be here with the rest of the guys.
Thank you very much. So starting with Joy. You have it too? Wow. What is your experience of conversation, making conversions based on the brands you work with?
Well, I think one of the main challenges I've faced in my years of advertising is really trying to convince clients that hard sell in this day and age does not work. Hard sell doesn't work. We need to have continuous personal conversation with our audiences. Yeah, having personal, tapping into the emotional aspect of our audiences to, kind of look like we really understand them. If you go there pushing your product, buy, you're gonna stay there. Then also data. Data has been extremely helpful, especially with how technology has advanced. It's very easy nowadays. You can actually tell who is visiting your website, who is buying your products, which conversation actually has helped you convert or helped you get customers. So it's been, and it also evolves. something that has been evolving over time. And yeah.
Clara.
Awesome. So I'll start with the context that I'm speaking from. So I'm speaking from an entertainment stroke media perspective. And you find that conversions for us vary. You find that to some extent, conversations for us are conversions, you know? Getting guys, sending us those WhatsApp notes, engaging. Sometimes someone, and it's so surprising, someone has a problem and they call the station, you know? And so a young person feels, oh, I'm going through this and this. I don't know what to do with this route. Let me come and see what you guys can help me do with this situation. So for us, first, conversations are conversions when it comes to the radio station. And then you find that depending on what you're trying to grow, like are we trying to grow our female audience, our male audience, our audience in rural areas, those conversations are our route to grow our brand salience. So how we measure our brand score is through those conversations. How many people are listening, tuning in? How many people are actually engaging with the topics that we have on each different show? So in a nutshell, that's what I would say from the context I'm in.
Oh, nice. Cynthia, Jambo Jet, eh? Wakiongea wanapanda ndege.
I mean, you know, we're in the business of selling flights, right?
Yeah.
And selling airline seats. So to us, that, you know, would be the simpler thing to do, right? You know, convincing you to book and go to that particular destination. But you know, the period that we're living in right now, the pandemic, Corona, especially when it happened last year, very, very new to all of us. So many businesses had closed. So many hotels had closed shop, you know. So then, you know, we are telling people, okay, now we are open, you know, when the lockdown was lifted, rather the inter-county cessation of movement. And then you're like, okay, you know, we could sell our flights, but then you're not telling people where to go, what to experience, how is it different, how has that changed. So it stopped being about just selling flights, selling those flight tickets, but it also became about having those conversations around, if I go to that particular destination, what can I experience, where can I go, which hotels are open, what measures are in place, because at that time the audience needs have changed. The audience, they're looking for something different when they're traveling, you know. First of all, also their propensity to spend has reduced quite a bit because, you know, of all the challenges that the pandemic presented us. So to us, the conversations really is about not only how to sell flights, how to sell flight tickets, but also the conversation about that particular destination and what you can experience when you get to that particular destination. And we've seen it work for us.
Nice. Yeah.
Thank you for picking me last.
Sorry about
It's something, no, I requested it, so thank you.
No, second last. Oh.
Yeah, okay, second last. Okay, so on my end, I handle digital storytelling for Safaricom. And basically what we do is to be able to tell stories of how we are living true to our purpose of transforming lives and how we are enabling people to basically go beyond, as we say, twende tukiuke, based off of the fact that our technology, our products and services are supporting them. So like this year, we did a couple of stories under the campaign for Twende Tukiuke, where we are basically showcasing how different small to medium enterprises are leveraging on various products, whether it's our data or M-Pesa or using things like Pochi la Biashara, and how that's affecting their businesses. So in turn, what that did, it was like a two-pronged effect, because one, we are also showing that we are living true to our purpose and that we have these products and services that can enable you to take your business to the next level. And two, we are also able to have the businesses that we are showcasing also benefit from these stories that we are telling, because now people got to know more about them. We did a story on Pauline Wendo and how she used the internet to reach Prince KB, a South African artist. If she hadn't sent that video on the internet, we'd never have that Ubenitosha song, which is such a beautiful song, for instance. Or we have places like Pastry Palace who bake lovely pastries, or we have other influencers who sell clothes online. So it's basically we are leveraging on the power of storytelling to be able to create conversions, not just for ourselves, but for other people whose lives have been transformed by what we offer.
Love that. Love that. On to the gentleman.
Yeah, so from where I'm seated, dealing with the content creators, what we come to see is, it's like, I guess for everyone else, the conversations are really at the heart of everything they do. For them, it's the first thing, the main intention is to spark that conversation. Now, the degree of conversion begins to depend on the matching of, the brand or the product they're talking to. So the sweeter the match, when it's something that's really close to them, something that our brand that espouses is to have the same values as a content creator, as an influencer, then we begin to see a greater degree of conversion.
I think the question is, how do you track this conversation and peg them to that conversion? So I think if you're talking about there's a degree at which you can actually measure your conversion, how do you track? Practical. This is the metric we look at, and this from a data perspective, because you mentioned about data.
Yeah. So in-house, what we did is we built a platform, a social commerce platform. It's called promo.ke. So it's supposed to tie from the beginning of the conversation down to the sale. So, at the back end, we have Google Analytics, which is you're using to measure. So we're able to check something as simple as a bounce rate. You want to see how many users went on the website, how many actually bought the product, how many just came in to view. So it begins with when the Insta story went out there, when the reel, when the photo, when the tweet went out there, how many people, what does the funnel look like? How many people actually clicked on this link in their bio? How many people actually swiped up? So how many people are now on the platform and are viewing the product? Then from there, you can actually see how many people are buying. Then from there, now you can also begin to see, at which point do we tweak the conversation? At what point are we losing our audience? Which conversation was interesting, which wasn't?
Okay. Joy?
Yeah, it really depends on the client's objective. So for instance, if your client's objective is how many app downloads do I have? We have tools like Firebase, tools like Firebase and AppsFlyer that can actually really tell you the number of people that have downloaded your app. We have website analytics. Website analytics really can tell you, like I mentioned earlier, you're able to know who came to your website, who clicked on this product, who actually added it to the cart, who actually checked out. So that's the beauty of technology, and that's the beauty of data as well. And then even as we progress, we have tools like Happier. Happier, you're able to actually tell, you can imagine how many guys come to your website. Let's say you have 100,000 website visits. 2% of these guys on your website are actually the ones who are probably filling in your form. What happens to the other 98%? So tools like Happier, you're able to actually see, we call it the anonymized data. So you can actually see those guys coming to website, which organizations are they from. You can actually download that data, use that data even for remarketing purposes, and that's the beauty of technology, really. Yeah.
Okay. Vivian. That last.
Okay, so on my end, how we basically monitor this, we monitor online sentiments about the brand, and when we work with different content creators or when we generate our own content, some of the things we look at is what are people saying about us? Are they saying good things? Are they saying bad things? So we leverage on tools like Meltwater and Brandwatch simply to be able to tell us that whether it's a particular topic or a particular hashtag, what are the sentiments that have been generated online. So for us, that's how we are able to know. And of course, in addition to now analytics from the content creators we work with, what are people saying? How are they engaging with guys? What type of conversations are they having? So that's how we're able to keep abreast of everything.
Cynthia. Yes, it's practical, the tickets. Yeah, okay.
what we've said is true. Maybe what I would add to the wealth of knowledge that has been shared is it's very important to know what conversion means to you at different points in your campaign and at different points in your marketing cycle. Because you can't just say conversions are conversations or installs, or so you look at the cycle in which you're in and then you contextualize. And as you're using the tools, you're also monitoring to see where is my money bringing me most value. Is it in conversations, organic like influencers? Is it brand experience? So in the context of where I work is we have the station, we have more sound events. We do some internal things, but we also do some stuff for clients. And you find that sometimes when a client comes to you with a brief, you realize this brief, the best way to execute it is to actually meet with your customer. You know, sometimes it's good to look at conversations from a wholesome point of view. It could be one-on-one, it could be digital, it could be on radio. So you try and also understand the context of your campaign, your audience, and then you're able to mix and match all these tools to be able to assess your conversion. Like for us, we track listenership. We also track engagement and streams when we do have events. And then when the talent in-house does post content, we usually give them unique links. Like Kamarichi had said, then you can track your links. And then apps like Apps Flyer helps you attribute. It tells you, okay, Twitter, this is the number of downloads you had from this specific person or from this specific platform.
Okay, that's nice. I think there's a fancy chart which was shown today, which I thought was really important, showing the funnel, and I think Marichi just mentioned the funnel. So there's the awareness, consideration, then conversion. Do we have the same conversation, or the conversation changes purely based on the funnel? Yeah? The last part. So based on that funnel, so you have the awareness, consideration, and then conversion. Do we have the same conversations purely based on do we have different conversations based on different stages, or we have one conversation that actually takes care of the last bit, which is the conversion?
I think on that point, it's like she had mentioned, it's very important to know what your objectives were, or really what you consider your conversion.
Okay.
Yeah, because you might have a brief where your conversion, the KPI was a number of certain comments. You know, you're targeting 200 comments on a certain post. So, you know, and you might end up realizing what you get there was consideration. So then now the conversation again, or the KPI again, will change when you're looking at it going down to the conversion level. Okay. So I guess it's sort of different conversations, sort of different strategies for each level. But in some instances, especially as, you know, the future of marketing is evolving, you know, it's the route to market sort of thing, farm to fork sort of approach. Yeah. In some instances, you can actually go down straight.
Okay. And Cynthia, so you talked about Friday's your best day. So when you apply that graphical thing and conversations, how do you see it?
Yeah, so what you're saying is actually very correct, because so somebody who is in the awareness stage is looking for something different from somebody who is in the consideration stage. So when, for instance, if you're looking for automated flights, there are many other airlines that you can fly. So in the awareness stage, basically, there's Jambo Jet, I will not mention the others, and then
Just make sure.
and then you go down to the consideration stage. Now, this is where we tell you this is why Jambo Jet is better than the others. So we give you all these other, things that you can do, or maybe it's about performance, it's about reliability, if it's the convenience, we have the most schedules. If you think about it per day, maybe destinations you think about here locally. So when you tell those people those particular things, it's those things that they care about at that particular stage. And then now when you go to this closing stage, which is really the sales and the conversion stage, then again it's not easy for them to put all this into context and complete that particular purchase.
So it's where you say, oh, this is the last ticket. Buy now. That's oh, okay. That's much practical. How about you, Vivian?
I've been trying to think about how to answer that question. Let me say I want to give a correct answer. Okay, let me say this. As a company, we've taken a lot of time over the last 21 years to invest in our infrastructure and, be innovative, and as a result, it's the reason why we are the biggest telco in Kenya. So at the end of the day, we already have majority of the customers. So it's more of now creating or educating customers about how to leverage on the different products and services that we offer, because even though we have over 32 million subscribers, not everyone is taking advantage of our catalog of products or the things that we can provide. So what we end up doing is ensuring that even as we are curating stories or we are advertising, we are letting people know that these are the products and services that are available to you. This is how you can use them, and this is how it will be beneficial to you, whether as an individual or as a business. So, yeah, I think we just go straight from awareness to conversion.
You don't have consideration.
Yeah.
What a good brand. Oh, God, everyone wants to be there.
Must be nice. Oh.
It must be nice. Oh, that's the line. Yeah, it must be nice. Clara, what?
To be honest, ours looks like it's almost sporadic. Because, and how sometimes we rationalize it is taking the context of a human conversation. You can be aware you're about to convert, and then you're like, wait a minute, there's something I'm not too sure of. So our consumers move around a lot. You get, sometimes they're aware, sometimes they're really not sure that they're, So for us, when we're planning our engagements and our digital engagements, we leave a lot of room for evolving with the consumer. So you find that some things that the consumer deems to be very important might not be important to the sale, but it's important to them at that point. So you engage with them at that point. When they're at the point of conversion and they need some reassurance, then we provide communication at that point. So for us, it's not a straightforward funnel. It's more like, have you ever been to town?
Yes, I've been to town.
Yeah. Oh, yes. So you're going to Ronald Ngala and you've mapped out a route, right?
Yeah.
And then you go, you participate how many buses you go. This way you go. But you'll arrive at some point.
Right.
So for us, we are the road that accommodates that confusion. You can go back and forth. And I think that's how we manage to keep our young audience, because they are it's not structured, especially the Gen Z generation. It's, are you ready or not? Do you know this thing or not?
Yeah.
So it's not a funnel. We just evolve with the audience. And in that, we also know how to communicate with them better.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you've introduced an interesting point whereby it's not one way. So there's certain conversation that you can introduce that will not lead to something. On that, do you know any conversation that you were supposed to be in and you knew for hearts, this would have done certain conversion, either for a brand I'm working with, or the brand I'm working for? Joy?
Top of mind, what can I think of? I'll give an
just look at the conversation.
Yeah.
More like the best giver will be culture, and because conversation actually so with our culture, our music culture, every single thing. So what kind of cultural trends or conversation you saw and you saw, later on brand fulani, I'm working.
Yeah.
And you try to sell it. Wambi wako hapa, because some of them are slow and some of them are fast. So let's have that conversation.
Yeah, there's a particular show on Citizen called, I think it's the Smart Farmer.
Smart Farmer.
Smart Farmer, yeah? I really tried to push this idea. Like, I know you will sell your solar products.
Yeah.
If you place your ads, you feature your farmers over here, I'm guaranteed you'll get some sales. I felt disappointed because that idea was kind of thrown to the side. Okay. And I felt like when we go to actually where those conversations are happening, like you go to the actual target person, to the farmers, because their target audience are the farmers. So I felt like this Smart Farmer show is perfect. It's actually spot on. And we missed out on it. So I think that I can kind of give that as an example.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you must have seen quite a lot of those, yeah?
The conversation I want to pick on is not one that many of the brands we've seen in Kenya would just jump on, just given all the guidelines they have as brands. But this thing started on, the conversation began on Edgar Barry's stories, Wash Wash. Yeah? It was Terence Creative who picked it up, spun the story, related it to what Kenyans actually go through, what ended up terming as Wash Wash. That ended up creating the assets that we've seen as Papa Freddy.
Yeah.
So from where I'm seated, the volume of that conversation, anyone who watched the YouTube videos he got millions of views in a week's time. So there's a very good number of brands that would have jumped on that. I wouldn't have expected, say, the banks that we've had in the years in Kenya to jump on that, given the guidelines and the policies and all that. It'd be a legal issue even. Yeah, but think of a modern fintech and what they'd have to tell you about the security of your money.
Yeah.
Think of even a washing detergent telling you there's Papa Fred and there's Terence. A bit of a clean wash here and there sets you back to normal. There's the kind of conversation it sparked, I feel, would created an asset that can, just because of the volume of the conversation and the relatability, would have easily driven conversions.
I love that example, because it's very practical and it's very Kenyan. Papa Freddy, katuambia, watu wa Kenya, jambo jet, tuambie, kafanya nini katika hii situation of good conversation?
That just reminds me, somebody actually said, because at that time we had just begun our route to Goma.
Okay.
And somebody actually said, that's why did Jumbo use Terence to settle Goma? And I feel, as much as there's some conversations we should have, there are also some conversations that we can't have.
Okay.
And it depends on how and what they do to the brand. Because then would I want to be involved in such a conversation if then, the conversation is about wash and the portrayal of the people of that particular city is really not really as clean as we want it to be portrayed. So in that case then, there's some conversations also brands have to measure what kind of conversations you can involve yourself in and what kind of conversations you can't have. And also the people who are having these particular conversations. It's important when you're picking these particular people, they have to be relevant to the audience, they have to adhere to the brand values, they have to breathe the brand values. And I think we would have, even the agency, and I'm sure everybody else in this panel, when it comes to the selection of the people who are having these conversations, it has to be a particular person that fits the brand values.
So for me, I guess what I'll say is I definitely agree with what Cynthia said. It's fun to trend jack, but you still need to be very strategic about it. Don't just do it just because everyone is doing it. But there's also that angle for it's a smart way to sort of become relatable with what's hot at the moment. And I think it's also, like you said, I really liked the examples Kamidichi gave because that's, a unique way to sell your brand. But I also think we need to be cognizant of the fact that people have become more woke in the sense that, look at the guy for Ntakufinya, Francis Atoli with his Allah, Jerusalema. People are starting to realize that they are creating content that can be copyrighted or that can be trademarked, and they're seeing the value, even though maybe some are realizing when it's already trended and now they're seeing, oh, wait a minute, maybe I can make some money from this. So maybe, you really need to think about whether this works in line with your strategy, and also be cognizant of the fact that you have to make that decision in real time. this is not something you can think about 2 weeks after it's already trended, because then you'll be too late and, there's a new story, something else is hot. Because when I remember, like, when Drake's new album came out with the emojis, everyone was dashing to make their own version of the cover. And then I remember there was a comment on Twitter where people were saying how long the approval process takes for these things to be approved, let's say for Kenyan brands, I guess. But at the end of the day, we all need to be very cognizant about that. Be strategic. Don't just jump in to jump in. And consider how it will work for your brand. On my part, I work a lot on crisis communications. It's very easy for something which you think is cool to work against you. Of course, I've taken a lot of risks with the brand this year, and some things didn't work for me, but you know what? You just take the risk and, kangumu, and you learn from it. So, I think just be very wary of what decisions you're making and what to jump into, what conversations to jump into. Yeah.
Clara, NRGs are the smack of these conversations, and even the trends and everything. So how do you work it out? And what do you think, even because you do have other briefs from clients, and how do you carve it through that kind of trend, the trends of conversation or culture for that matter?
Okay, so I'd first start by saying what they have said is true. One small part of your mind should be wary, small part. A lot of it's strategic. It's just to know where your loyalties lie. Like for us as a company, our loyalties lie with the youth. So that's our mother client. You get? Yeah. So we entertain, we inform, we engage, and we are one with the youth. When it comes to news and trend jacking, we don't necessarily trend jack, we more report and engage with the actors. By actors, I mean the personas that are involved in the story. So our job is to do that, and we'll do that regardless of whether it's up to the consumer now to discern. Of course, there are some things based on the media guidelines that we do not propagate, but sometimes when it comes to entertainment, your onus is to the audience. You get, and the guidelines is to protect the audience. So even as a practitioner, you need to also think, because we are the same people who are formulating these policies. We're the same people who are growing with the youth. So we also need to think in two perspectives in that, yes, the rules that do exist are protecting the youth. But we also need to question those same rules, because we are the same ones who are forging the way forward. Now, to the question, the most recent conversation that happened that actually, you guys will judge when you hear the story. So since 2018 till date, there's been a conversation, was it 2018 or 2019? There's been a conversation about playing Kenyan music. You guys remember when the hashtag Play KE Music started? It was a while back. And it was nice, and that time Gengeton was really hot, and the conversations were around content. The content. Fast forward 2 years later, a lot of artists have come, great artists, if I may say. Most of them are young, others are older, but good content is being produced. It just so happens that with this recent event that happened, the notion that was communicated, would I say the plan was to a foreigner to headline. But a popular comedian kickstarted the conversation over again. And, it's also good to give credit where it's due, because that person also brought people to start questioning. And what we did now, we saw the value for us in terms of the conversation is on the other side with the artists. So not to trend jack on social, but to give them a different experience internally, such that when the time comes, because we were so sure what happened would happen, then we would be the preferred partner to do events with. So when you hear this hot December season, there are events, then the artist would give us more consideration in terms of booking, in terms of performances. And what we did then is every time Kenyan artists do come, and I would also like to invite you guys to come to NRG, at least one of these days come and see where we work. They came and they had a really good experience. And if I might just say, that same day the National Act had an interview. Later, Bien and Aaron Jimbui had an interview too. And they were just like, wait, is this for us? Yes. This is all for us? Yes. How come you guys have not already told people? We were like, this one is for you, not for the public too. This is what you guys deserve, and this is the standard. So our jacking was more internal, so that the artists themselves, the group as allies, and as fast supporters, we won't wait until it's confirmed that this and this will happen, so that we continue doing what we've been doing for you guys. And I think fate is a beautiful thing, and that's the power of conversations. Conversations stick, and time will work to your advantage if the conversation you're having is beneficial for both parties, because things aligned, and now the conversations that are happening are benefiting us because of stuff we've been consistent on over 2 years, but no one was noticing, but now it's actually giving us some good return in terms of value. Yeah.
Okay. I think today we're having a conversation with Vivian. We're talking about interesting responses by brands. In the street name, it's called violence. If somebody goes low, you go lower. So, and it has been quite an interesting piece of conversation that actually trend on WhatsApp. So what are the effects on brands and the brands we've worked with?
For starters, what I usually tell clients, don't block, don't delete. Tell your comment, delete that comment, yeah? Reach out to let's say if it's something negative or positive. If it's negative, for instance, reach out to the specific individual, find out what exactly was the challenge, how can we help you. Then once that has been sorted out behind the scenes, go online, respond and say, we hear you are blah, blah, blah. I hope the experience is now better. That way, even when guys are coming to your page and even interacting with your content, they can actually see that you're responsive. They can actually see you're engaging back your customers, you're having those conversations. So yeah. Don't block, please. Don't block, don't delete those comments. Yeah.
Conversion on violence.
If you take that route as a brand, you have to win. I mean, there's no two ways about it. I mean, definitely go to the DM. Sometimes the response could be severe. Something that looks, especially if it's something many of your consumers have been talking about. You quickly respond, say, we'll be in touch, give us your number, give us your account details, whatever. Pick it up with the conversation, if it's customer care on the back end, make it flow. But then there's, your internet rep just come for a fun time. Yeah. At that point, clap back, but make sure you win, Then, because the examples where people now actually, it becomes such a point of conversation that can actually lead to conversions. Yeah. I think we're all very familiar with an internet service provider that many people have complained of. It's definitely not Safaricom. And the conversation was so loud online about unreliable internet. But you see, once they improved on their services, everyone sort of noticed the shift in that conversation to maybe just a little. It's a downtime here, a downtime there. So now people actually trust them as a reliable internet service provider.
Okay, does any one of you track such kind of conversation to see how well they are doing? Vivian, because you're on the crisis side,
Yes, we track.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those questions are asked and then you're told discuss.
Okay. Let me give two approaches,
Yeah.
but I want to start by maybe contributing to that other part of the
Okay,
conversation
cool.
first.
Start with that.
Yes. Let me not call it violent conversations. Let me say, or let me give it from the perspective of Safaricom. What we've done is just to encourage our social media care team to let their personalities shine. Like, talk the way you'd talk to a regular person, because people don't want to talk to a bot. You want to know that there is a human being behind the phone, behind the screen. So you don't need to be so stiff or so robotic in how you respond to your customers. I always say it's very good to match the energy that you're receiving. If someone is sending you an emoji, you can respond in an emoji. If someone tweets with a GIF, respond with a GIF. If they're talking to you in sharing, don't say thank you or whatever. Like, respond, match the energy of the customer that you're serving. I think that's really important. And, you know, sometimes you also need to know that humor is definitely a very good way of breaking the ice and creating that camaraderie with your audience. But you also have to be cognizant of the fact that not everyone is funny. So even if you're the humorous person who's responding in this case, you need to know your audience. So I think that's very important, that just be very keen when you're reading that engagement or listening to the customer or however you're engaging with the consumer, ensure that you first listen to be able to know how to interact with them further. Because at the end of the day, that engagement is what will actually help us build and solidify the relationship that we have with our customers. So customer experience is very, very important. And then when it comes to what you're asking about monitoring conversations, of course, it's really important to know what your competitors are doing, what are the sentiments that people are saying about your competitors vis-a-vis what they're saying about our product. That's something we definitely monitor, just to be able to know what's our NPS against. NPS is Net Promoter Score. So basically, are your consumers vouching for you or they're not vouching for you? So yeah, it's something we proactively monitor a lot. Yeah.
Nice. Mambo zetu mnakuanga nayo. Okay. Yeah.
So it reminds me of something that we experienced at Jumbojet. I think it was 2019. Yeah. Of some of the words that we used for to refer to special category passengers. You know, and it's a very touchy subject for those particular people and for everybody, and it should be taken really seriously. But airline language has, a certain standard. It's physical disability. It's physical disability. It's, you cannot hear, it's left, right? And sometimes it seems a bit too aggressive to the people with this particular differently abled, they call it differently abled. So, and it's a conversation that came out, I think, out of one of the Facebook groups, and it was forwarded to, I think, our customer experience team. And, it's a conversation that we took up. We're like, okay, you know what, this is what you said. We called it mentally disabled, but what do you think we should call it? And such conversation, and it's for the betterment of the brand. And the next time they want to talk about who takes care of these particular people with special needs or special category passengers, so say, okay, Jumbojet actually responded to our call to say that this is what did not label it well on the website. Then how well can we do it? We did a focus group to just discuss. Okay, so this is how we've written it. Then now, but what do you think it should be? And that particular conversation is important because they will always remember. And as Clara said, these conversations stick, because if you do not do it right, then that customer is going to remember it, and the next time they're like, no, But then if you do it right by them, they're like, oh yeah, Jumbojet, they did this wrong, but they came back to me, and this is what he said, and this is what he did to ensure that that I stick with the brand.
Okay. Kamaritia. Last remarks. 2 minutes.
If you're in the digital space or social media, for that. Conversations are very, very important. Begin the conversations. Transact where you can, do it reasonably. There's also something we look at as reasonable recklessness. So practice that a bit. It increases the volume of your conversation. As much as everyone else has said here, it's also very important to be very careful. Your end consumer is very, very important. As Carol has mentioned, actually, a bird in hand. So, but the conversation it's really the beginning of conversion, at least from my experience and from where I'm seated.
Yeah, last remarks from my experience, hard selling doesn't work. Data is key, something measurable. If you can measure, anything that's measurable is optimizable. Have those conversations, use influencers. We have macro influencers, we have micro, we have, all sorts of influencers, so leverage on that. And lastly, trend jack, don't be afraid, but again, like she mentioned, be careful also, yeah.
Okay, mine is not technical, sorry. We're all professionals, you're all skilled, you're all very brilliant at what you do. When it comes to communication and marketing, also don't forget you as a human being. All the things, whatever X age you are, all that experience you have lived through life is experience you must apply at the workspace, with your customers, with your audience, or with your clients. So in any situation, always think humanly as you're thinking professionally or skilled, because that helps you keep the conversations and the connections more genuine. People feel people, even online, and as Vivian was saying, and something I really like about Safaricom is that the responses are human. You can see Carol is the one talking about this issue, and you can see Carol's personality coming out. And at some point you're like, wow, I really like Carol from Care Center, and you're like, maybe the reason you're connecting to the brand is Carol. So don't forget all your years of human experience when you're working. Just apply that, apply what you know about people, apply your perceptions of people, how you would deal with an anger situation, apply all those things you've learned and keep learning from a human perspective, because it makes your marketing exponential. Like it takes it to the next level, because then you understand consumers from a more connected point of view.
For me, I would say two things, just to build on to what Claire has said. I think we need to always keep in mind that these conversations that have the potential to turn into conversions are not necessarily just online. In fact, online is where people come, it's the last resort, because you're just like, how do I contact a certain business or a certain company? We need to keep in mind even the business to consumer or consumer to consumer conversations are the ones that will also lead to those conversions. So how are you treating your customers, whether it's at your branches, at your office, at your establishment? How are you let's say as a corporate, how are you relating to your staff? Because at the end of the day, how you relate to your staff is how they'll also have, it's going to directly affect how they also interact with customers. So I think it's really important to realize that all touch points basically have a direct effect on the conversions that you can make. That's one. And then two, I think many businesses need to leverage on user-generated content. People prefer to believe someone else as opposed to believing what a brand is telling you. Someone mentioned how you can use micro-influencers, macro-influencers. At the end of the day, each and every one of us are influencers. If I hear someone who went to a concert or who bought a product and they had a good experience, I'll most likely believe my friend or my relative and what they went through than when a company is telling me to buy their product, or even when an influencer is telling me to buy their product, because at the end of the day, I trust that person. So I think it's really good to leverage, as corporates leverage on user-generated content, find a way to amplify whatever it is that they've done on your platforms as well, given the fact that you probably have a larger audience than your customers who have created this content. But if you're amplifying what a customer has said about you, they'll know that, oh wow, this actually worked for this customer, or these are the sentiments of someone who's actually had a pleasant experience with your brand. So I think it's good to find ways of doing that, especially if you're a corporate. Just dialing it back to our brand, we do a lot of that on TikTok, to a point where now what's happening is that our audience are tagging us in videos where people are mentioning Safaricom or M-Pesa and all our various products. And you're seeing so many people are creating fun content that we are also amplifying on our pages. So I think it's really worked well for us. There are various other brands like Nike, GoPro, who leverage on this content, and you're able to see how their technology is also enabling other people to live up to whatever their brand promise is. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I think I'll sum it up with this. A point of view is better than a point of differentiation when it comes to conversation that leads to conversion. Thank you.